This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It's Tuesday, August the 5th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams, he's produced the program. Let's get it going. If you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial to get in the queue and on the air is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So right off the bat, obviously, big thanks to Anthony Germain for sitting in for me last week while I took a little bit of a breather. I'm told he did great. No surprise there. Seasoned professional broadcaster that Anthony is. So appreciate him sitting in. And thank you very much for joining us this morning. I'm not sure where Anthony would have started, but of course, you know me. A little touchdown on some of the sporting-related matters of the day as we lead into the Canada Summer Games opening ceremonies coming up on the 8th, Friday. You know full well some of the swimmers, especially I would suggest maybe the female swimmers, watching the World Aquatic Championships, looking at Canadian phenom Summer McIntosh. I don't know if Anthony touched down on it, but she won 5 individual medals at the Worlds. Only the third swimmer in history to do so. So 4 gold and 1 bronze. She was disappointed with the bronze. A championship record in the 400 IM that rounded out the 5 medals. The other 2 swimmers with 5 individual medals at the Worlds, Michael Phelps and Sarah Sjöström. Phelps is the only swimmer to win 5 individual golds. Sjöström only won 1 gold when she won 5 individuals, but Summer McIntosh, man, oh man, 18 years of age. And some of the young tennis players might be looking at the National Bank Open right now happening in Toronto and Montreal. 18-year-old Toronto native Vicky Mbaka beat Coco Gauff, the number 1 seed, of course, major champion. She's off to the semi-finals tomorrow night against Alina Rybakina, who, of course, is a Wimbledon champion. So she's dusting off the seeds on her way. And last night in the quarters against a Spaniard named Jessica Bouzas Monero, absolutely blew the doors off her after a bit of a sluggish start in the second set, which I watched. So Mboko off to the semis, just for context. So this is a huge event. It's a 1,000 level event, and what that means is these are the most prestigious tournaments other than the Grand Slams. So Mboko is the first Canadian to reach a WTA 1000 event semifinal since Bianca Andreescu's title run in 2019. Also, the youngest woman to reach the semis since Belinda Bencic in 2015, and she won in Toronto. Amazing stuff. Go get him. Vicky. All right, last one on sports. This is fantastic and very interesting. Abby Newhook, St. John's native. Of course, Boston College graduate. She's drafted by the Boston Fleet to play in the Professional Women's Hockey League. Tonight at Fenway Park, as the Red Sox host the Kansas City Royals, Abby Newhook gets to throw out the first pitch, which is a really cool thing to get to do. Piece of advice, Abby, don't do it from the mound. Stand in front of the mound, because throwing off the bump is difficult stuff. All right, let's get down to more important matters. Devastating images, whether it be videos or stills from all the wildfires. And you don't need me to get into all the different areas with the wildfires, but it is brutal. Power cut off between Kingston and Adams Cove. We know the evacuation orders and state of emergency that are in place out in Conception Bay North. The pictures around Holyrood, absolutely unbelievable. Some warnings that are out there based on historical incidents is I know it's tempting to put your drone in the air to get some of those images from the sky, but don't do it. You can't do it. The fine can be up to $15,000 if you're caught doing it. And, of course, it can compromise firefighting efforts. There was a collision, I believe, between a drone and a plane in California, maybe earlier this year, maybe late last year. So please don't do that. Then they talk about some of the, as people in the area, including the mayor out around Adams Cove, talking about the suspicious timing and nature of these fires. Investigations are underway. I don't know what's going on, but if you do, and you have heard or you know that someone is purposefully setting fires and or even simply reckless with the fire ban, whether or not it's lifted, we all need to be keenly aware of the fire risk alert where you are. So the maps are online. Now, the dashboard is not exactly extremely helpful when we're trying to deduce the size of said fires, but it's pretty dry out there. So can we please all do what we can? And if you know that someone has purposely set a fire, which I don't know if it's the case or not, but the stories are being reported, even from the mayor and people in the area, do the right thing. On top of that, I've told the folks in Adams Cove, which lost a bunch of houses, some 12 houses lost to the fire that hit the community in May, and the evacuation that took place. We're still waiting to find out what access to, whether it be the Federal Disaster Relief Fund and or compensation, some sort of financial support from the province that the province said would be forthcoming. It'd be nice to have an update. Here we are at the 5th of August, and that fire took place in May. So let's put that out there. And if you want to take it on and give us an update about what you see, because even here in the East End of St. John's last evening, you could clearly see and smell the smoke. So congratulations and go get 'em, bravo, and thank you to the folks working on the ground or in the air in a helicopter or a water bomber to do their level best. Incredible professionals. So, and for folks who are opening up their doors and communities who are opening up public spaces for folks who have been evacuated, thanks for what you're doing as well. Okay, let's keep going. So while I was away, a couple of things happened, obviously, and the Prime Minister followed through on a campaign promise to deal with the fees at Marine Atlantic. Now, not the same way dealt with other ferry services in Atlantic Canada and Quebec, where both commercial and passenger rates were slashed. Marine Atlantic, not the same. So yes, it's going to cut the fees in half for regular passenger vehicle traffic. Okay, but not doing the same for commercial or truckers. So it feels like a campaign promise fulfilled, but this only goes halfway and in fact could make things even worse. Now, it was always dubious to believe that even if commercial rates were slashed in half, that we would see some relief at, say, for instance, the grocery store, which I never thought was going to be the case. It was hopeful, but doubtful. Okay, so the province can talk about things like being less competitive than other parts of Atlantic Canada based on commercial rates being slashed. At the same time, the province won't sign on to interprovincial trade agreements. You know, we got some MOUs in place, which are really not much to hang your hat on at this moment in time. But could this actually make things worse? So yes, it can be a boost for folks who are wanting to visit the province and take their vehicle and travel across Marine Atlantic. So that's a good thing. And for folks from this province who would like to make their way to the mainland in their passenger vehicle, it's a good thing. But the ferry's already booked solid. 7,000 more bookings this year compared to last year. Will this possibly make a problem for commercial traffic insofar as if more people in their own car would like to take the ferry? Feels good, but I'm not so sure it gets us where we need to be here. The real hope, look, I get it. If you're someone who travels by car and uses Marine Atlantic, you're going to save money, and that's an excellent thing. But that commercial freeze is not what we need it to be. And how can it be different for other Atlantic Canadian ferries and Quebec versus this province? So it's a promise that's half kept. And does it make things better for the general public here? If you travel, sure. If you don't, not so sure. We've done a whole lot here with the Marine Atlantic business. And if you want to talk about it, we can do it. All right, sticking with the water, this time aquaculture. So someone sent me an email that I've only read out of the corner of my eye. It's about crop insurance, and I'll get into it now in a second here, Fred, when I get a chance. But 2 major mass mortality events last month. And we can get into this particular sites, Coal Ocean Salmon and the Olive Cove site out in Hermitage Bay, and then one, so Maui, Canada, that also had a mass mortality event. They're pointing the finger of concern, or I'll call it blame or cause, at warm water and sea lice. Okay. Few things. So if that's the case, and I have no reason to believe it's not, but into the future, it's seemingly highly unlikely that the water is going to get cooler or the sea lice problem is going to be controlled, that it doesn't lead to mass mortality, which begs the question, what does the future look like for aquaculture? Look, if you're down in Hermitage or you're in Burgeo or you're in some community where that has been an economic savior, I understand where you're coming from, completely and entirely. But if the mass mortality events are to be blamed on sea lice and warm water, those are going to persist into the future. There's no trend backwards to cooling waters off the coast of this province. The trend is clear with warming. So, does that mean that for a viable, environmentally sound future for the aquaculture industry, we have to take another serious look at having these operations conducted on land where they can do things that control the temperature, which they cannot do in the ocean? So, I get aquaculture as an economic boon to one community or another. We all understand that. But if those trends are what they are, how are we not going to see more of these events if the blame is sea lice and warm water? Anyway, you want to take it on, we can do it. Aquaculture used to get a lot of conversation, not so much in the recent past, but let's take it on. All right. Also, we know Memorial University is in a bad spot insofar as infrastructure and maintenance deficits into the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Issues regarding the doubling of tuitions and all the rest. So yes, there was going to be the need to find savings. People justifiably and understandably look at the cost of administration. We've even seen the Auditor General talk about parts of the campus that are not utilized in full, but yet the light's on, the heat's on, and all that kind of stuff. So savings. One place where they decide to try to rein in some spending is the Harris Center. So the core operational funding is gone. Apparently they can still apply for research-specific funding, but the core operational funding is gone. This is a problem. I mean, the overall economic future of this province not solely has to hang its hat on Memorial University, but an educated populace is going to be the key. The Harris Center gave us a chance to reflect on ourselves, to research ourselves, past and present. Even if you just look at a body of work known as the Vital Signs Report, which is produced annually, extremely helpful information. So the mandate of the university is pretty clear. And some of that has to include how we view ourselves, how we research ourselves, how we understand our past, our history, how it's molded us into the present and into the future. So this is a problem. I've seen some people opine and offer the same concerns that I share about the Harris Center as just a curious place for something to lose its core funding. It will eventually beg the question about what role the province has to play, the provincial government. Look, they talk about just how much money is given to the university compared to, say, for instance, Nova Scotia and what have you. Those comparatives can be helpful for context, but for the overall success of the province into the future, all post-secondary institutions and the entirety of the K-12 system is going to be the linchpin, the absolute key. But the Harris Center was not anything frivolous. It was critical. So this seems to be a funny place to start insofar as trying to achieve savings. And I get it. If you're talking about looking at the cost of administration, the number of senior positions that have been created over the past decade, it is a good place to start. Because you can't just be keenly focused on one facet of the operations or another. It's a full, complex, comprehensive view of Memorial University's funding, spending, whether it be through the lens of the Auditor General, or things like what the Harris Center means to the province and for the university's actual mandate. And I'm hoping that someone's going to be interested in taking that on. Get through another few before we get to you. Let's have a busy show here today. Whatever you want to talk about, I'm into it. All right. Now, contrast to some questionable decisions, this one is an excellent decision. The province has now said through the health minister that the people who will indeed occupy a bed at Vita Nova Recovery will be paid for by MCP. So adding 24 beds by the end of this year, 54 beds when the centre is fully functional. This is a good thing. You know, we cannot have finances stand between someone who wants help to get help. So good on the government for doing this, which offers another couple of questions. So they have a different approach than what the province does. You know, if we're talking about wait times, there's been a 50% spike in demand for rehab beds in the last 5 years. There's 663 referrals last year. If wait times is a concern, which it is, median wait times at the end of each fiscal year climbed from 36 days in 2020-21 to 69 days in 24-25. At the Vita Nova Recovery, you're going to get into detox, and then you're going to get into rehab, and then you're going to get into transitional housing, all one after the other, with no delay in between. If you get in detox and you come out and you have to wait any significant length of time to get into rehab, the likelihood of falling back into your spiral of addiction is increased. If the province recognizes that this is important, and it is, whether we talk about public safety, healthcare costs, criminal justice, whatever the case may be, and even people's personal lives and the destruction of family, if the province recognizes the good work and the excellent approach they're taking at Vita Nova Recovery, then how can they not follow this up with an announcement that says, we will build and operate and staff more detox beds, more rehab spots, and transitional housing, will reduce the median wait times all the way down to what we hope will be the outcomes at Vita Nova Recovery, because if they think it's a good idea for them and MCP will pay for it, that basically says the quiet part out loud, that they recognize we need to do more. It's not only an individual parasite for folks suffering and the destruction of family and the community's safety, it's a big deal. We are in an actual drug crisis in this country. So any angle you want to take at it, we're happy enough to do it here this morning. But this is good news, and good luck, and go get them to Vita Nova. You're still recruiting staff, and hopefully they can staff up, because as we know, throughout the entire gamut of healthcare, we can buy the machines, but we need the staff. A couple more quickies. The City of St. John's, I'm not going to put words in the mayor's mouth or any member of council, but it does kind of feel like we're kind of reacting well after the fact here, insofar as boosting security in public spaces, including on walking trails. Now, good that we're going to do it. There's been 3 separate incidents in the very recent past where people have been assaulted, including one allegation of sexual assault. And what does this enhanced security look like? A lot of this goes back to the drug problem. Not all of it, but certainly a fair amount of it goes back to the drug issue in this city and around the province, I would suggest. When polled, one of the key features being brought back to council by the tax-paying citizens is public safety. So, to that end, whatever role the province has to play here to ensure that we have a full complement of law enforcement officers on the ground, on the job, in the squad car, on patrol, doing the investigations, making the arrests, seeing it through the court system. We need to make sure every spot that the RNC or the RCMP need to adequately, to the best of their ability, execute their jobs. Let's get at it. Now, I know some money has been brought forward or what have you, but yeah. All right, Tony Humby. So his trial apparently is going to see witnesses called beginning on the 27th of this month. He's facing, like 90 charges of sexual assault, including 7 or 8 charges of human trafficking. So there's going to be some concern regarding Jordan, and that's the Supreme Court ruling based on the timeliness of getting your day in court. 18 months from charge to get through provincial court, 30 months in Supreme Court. The application apparently is going to be considered while the trial is ongoing, and we'll see where that lands. And there might be a need for the country to go back to the drawing board about this. Look, you need to get your day in court in a timely fashion, and there's lots of reasons why trials get delayed. So the judge is going to consider all the moving parts as to why the delays have taken place and add to it. Bruce Escott, Tony Humby's criminal pal, evil person, has, in an agreed statement of facts, that led to his 13-year sentence in prison, he said what was alleged has happened, and he pled guilty to it. So we'll see where it lands, and I still think there's a need for an inquiry. I don't, every time a minister does something wrong, off with her or his head, like people talk, I try not to be like that. But, we don't need a public inquiry into every single thing, but the protection of youth and the protection of the most vulnerable youth, and where the ball was dropped, obviously, in this case, and if these are allegations, Mr. Humby's yet to have his day in court. Whether it be the Department of Child, Youth and Family Services, whether it be the Child and Youth Advocate's role, and certainly the role of the police force, the RNC in this case. So I know that's a big one, but let's talk about it. And last one on healthcare. Can someone at the province explain to me why we have not signed on to the National Pharmacare Program? I know it's, they're going to bring it out in phases, and right now it's covering diabetic medications, not every single thing, but diabetes and contraceptives. Why aren't we on it? Like, as a taxpayer, I'm already paying. Like, I'm paying money right now for something that there might be a reason why we haven't signed on, but not one that I understand. But if you want to take that on, we can do it. Last one. I know this is a lot of American politics, which is actually, there's a lot going on. And so, also while I was away, 35% tariff. All right. Lots of confusion out there as to what we actually have to achieve here. We can't just get on bended knee here and roll over to the incoherent ramblings of a madman. But the whole bit about what's compliant under CUSMA, the Canada-U.S.-Mexico Trade Agreement. I hear people talk about things like, well, it's no big deal because 90% of what we trade with the United States is compliant with CUSMA, and so no tariffs will be applied. But that's actually not what's happening here. Even if you just read a paper that came out from RBC, if you say 86% of trade is excluded, it's kind of true and kind of not true at the same time. It's a complicated issue. Last year, less than 40% of trade actually happened under CUSMA. It involves significant rules of country of origin compliance, which is extraordinarily complicated. Here's something captured right from the RBC paper. However, only about 30% of U.S. imports from Canada were traded under customer provisions in 2024. We believe this low percentage was largely due to the administrative burden of meeting its rules of origin requirements when a large share of U.S. general tariff rates were already zero outside the North American Free Trade Agreement. Then they talk about, some of the sectoral tariffs that are in place. Steel and aluminum, problem for the country. Energy and potash, problem for us. Copper and other less finished metals, automobiles, auto parts and the like. So companies are throttling back output and investment, reducing cross-border trade. And yes, we can talk about diversification, which is ongoing, thankfully so, but anything on the federal front, whether it be, the home building program and or Bill C5 and nation building projects, and I understand there was lots of fixed link conversation here last week. Is that true, Dave? Lots of fixed link stuff? I'm happy to talk about that too, or whatever you want to talk about. All right, we're on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show to kick off the week. That can only happen if you're in the queue to talk about whatever's on your mind. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's begin this morning on line number 4. Good morning, Louise. You're on the air.
It's Lewis, but I can accept Louise, I guess.
Lewis, pardon me, sir. It has Louise on my screen, but I'll take the blame for that one. Welcome to the show, Lewis. What's on your mind?
Well, I was just going to say, if you put an E on the end of that name, it probably could be Louise. But anyway, Patty.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm calling Marine Atlantic to try and get a crossing to go to the mainland. Yesterday, again, she told me in a month, September 4th, would be the earliest they can get me on a boat to cross. Patty, to me, this is highly unacceptable. It don't even make sense for Marine Atlantic to have us hostage here where we can't get off of this island for a month at a time. 2 weeks ago when I first called, I said, okay, well, maybe we'll fly. Well, we could get reservations to fly over, but we needed to rent a vehicle in Nova Scotia. And in the North Sydney, nowhere in that area can you rent a vehicle. Everything is booked solid. So we put it on hold for a couple of weeks. I called back yesterday. I figured it might have changed a bit, but now we have to cross. And they're telling me it's going to be another month, at least. September 4th was the date she gave me, before there would be any openings. Now, she said if you wanted to... they're not even really taking names for a standby list. If you want to just show up, I guess, and wait around, which, again, to me is very unacceptable.
No question. It's the double-edged sword, isn't it, Lewis? It's the good news that the ferries bookings are way up and people are coming here to spend their hard-earned money. The downside, and the other edge of that knife, is that people like yourself, you can't get off the island if you want to take your vehicle. And we've even had stories of people who have got to be somewhere on the mainland by a certain date. They book passage over, but they have to wait like 5 weeks to get back. So there's something to be said for a hierarchy, a priority list. I don't know how it would work, but if that ferry is our constitutional highway, does that not say that we prioritize people from this province and then commercial traffic? And at the exact same time, someone yelling at the radio working in the hospitality sector would say, well, what about the people who want to come and spend out-of-province money? So I don't know what the solution is, but what you're experiencing is an all too common story.
Patty, there's quite a few different solutions if Marine Atlantic wanted to sit down and discuss it. I mean, Marine Atlantic's it's a federal, this was federal. It's not a provincial problem, it's federal. Now, I crossed on that boat 11, 12 years ago back then. One crossing was 5 hours and 15 minutes. And, it was rather fast. The next time I crossed, it was almost 8 hours. And I went up and I spoke to one of the people working on the boat, and I asked, why is it taking so long this trip? Because they had announced before we're leaving it would be probably 8 hours from shore to shore. And they said there was a problem. Marine Atlantic got together, and the people were saying the captain said their people wasn't paying enough attention. They were tired. They had I think they might have hit the wharf when they got on one side or the other. I think it was North Sydney. So the captain said they were working too many hours, so they cut everybody back to 8 hours. So this is what they told me. They said, now, if they're taking the 8-hour trip. Now, this is one option Marine Atlantic has got. In the summer, they could speed those boats up. They could also there's 15, 20 lanes of traffic when you get to when you get in the line up in North Sydney or Portabass. They could have so many of those lanes designated for people from this island, because it is our only highway. It's part of our highway system. There's a lot of things Marine Atlantic could do, like Patty, like I just told you, it don't even make sense. I'm sure if Mark Carney wanted to come to this island, there was an election in August, and he wanted to come here in July to campaign, and he didn't have a flight, and they told him, no, you call back in a month, we'll get you a reservation. I wonder if Mark Carney would accept that.
Likely not.
I'm thinking not.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't our premier he should have the Prime Minister's ear, especially at this time of year. Why couldn't the premier here talk to the Prime Minister and do something, like not next week or next month, do it immediately. Like, this is a way out of whack here. Like, there's something in our system is wrong.
Yeah, flipping a switch during the peak season is probably going to be highly problematic, but planning into the future and giving us an idea as to whether or not either the province and or the feds actually understand the concerns and what they're going to do about it. Because status quo is obviously not working. Yes, we can talk about cutting the passenger fares, but if you can't get on the boat, it doesn't matter how much it costs.
Well, Patty, why couldn't they, for these months, why couldn't they add an extra boat or two if they had to for a couple of months in the summer when the traffic is this heavy? Because these boats take between 500 and 700 vehicles. There's one of them, I think, is maybe closer to 800, like, if it's not tractor trailers. Like, these boats take an awful lot of vehicles. I think the Vision takes 530. The Blue Petite takes 570. Why couldn't they add an extra boat on? Like, I'm sure Marine Atlantic can afford, our government can afford to put an extra boat on in the summer here to try and solve this problem for us.
Whatever the solution is, one needs to be found. I don't know how easy it is to put a boat conducive to the run and the dock on the schedule this summer. Like, I really don't even know how that works, but exactly what's happening, there's a lot of feel good. Like last year they did away with the 65% cost recovery model. This year we see the slash of passenger vehicle fees. But your issue, as you describe it, doesn't get satisfied with fee cuts, right? It doesn't impact it whatsoever. So where we go from here is an excellent question. Like I said off the top of the show, it feels like a promise half kept here. And what happens if people are further enticed to travel via Marine Atlantic and do the early bookings, and then all of a sudden we've got backlogs and commercial traffic and passenger vehicle traffic, and the weather's always going to have some interruptions here. So it feels like a half-hearted kept promise to me, at best.
Well, Patty, like, in all reality, I can see Marine Atlantic charging tourists, but to me, there should be no charge whatsoever for the people in Newfoundland to cross that boat, because this is part of our highway. If you live in Ontario and you wanted to go to British Columbia, you don't have to go and pay $300-400 to go from one province to another. Why do we have to pay it here? There should be no fee whatsoever for the people in Newfoundland to use that ferry boat.
Well,
to me, they have, hey, that's a good start, but there should be no fee whatsoever.
I mean, even if there was a nominal fee, like to cross the Confederation Bridge, for instance, and I don't even know if people from PEI have to pay the toll. I'm really not sure the answer to that question, but I completely understand your concerns. We've invited Marine Atlantic on the program. When I was away for a week, I don't think they joined us, but we'll re-invite them today, see if we can put these scenarios to them and maybe have a conversation about potential solutions, I'll call it.
Okay, Patty. I'm hoping that somebody in the Premier's office is listening where he'll do something with this today. And if he don't, is there any way we've got to have an ombudsman in this country? Could you find out who it is? It used to be Kathy Tomlinson at one point. Now, I'm not sure if she still does this, but I would definitely love to go public where this would get to the Prime Minister's ear rather quick. And if I don't give a heck or hell or high water what I got to do, if you can get any information who the ombudsman is, or if anybody listening knows, give them my number. They can give me a call, because if I can get any information, I will definitely call. I'll meet them anywhere. If I got to drive right down from where I live here outside of Stephenville, I'll drive down to Port aux Basques to meet them. I don't care. I want to get off of this island a lot sooner than in a month's time.
Understood. The problem with the ombudsman question is that there's so many of them. I mean, there's taxpayer, privacy commissioner, official languages, mental health, RCMP, Radio Canada, CBC. So I don't know if there's a one-size-fits-all ombudsman office. It's been broken down to all sorts, and that includes the banking industry and all the rest of it. But I'll try to find the appropriate home for your concern. And if you send me an email, I will try to react with a link to the most appropriate commissioner or ombudsman.
Patty, I would, but I'm computer illiterate. Man, I am totally computer illiterate. Other than that, I would do this. But if any of your listeners is listening, if they would know which ombudsman for a problem like this that I could call, I'd appreciate it if they would call me. I'll gladly give my number out, and I'll wait to hear back from anybody.
Sure. Dave has your number, so if someone calls us, we can have Dave relay your number. And if I find it, I'll speak to it live on the program so that everybody has the info.
Thank you very much, Patty. I appreciate your time, and have a good show.
Same to you, Lewis. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. All right, there you go. Let's keep going. Line number 1, Walter, you're on the air. Oh, let's put Walter on hold. I thought we were going to Walter next, but that's right after the break. Walter's there, and then we're going to talk about the ferry once again. Liam wants to chime in on the drug epidemic, and then an awareness walk across the country. By who, about what? We'll find out. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 1. Walter, you're on the air.
Thank you so much, Patty. Welcome back, and I hope you had a good vacation with your family, sir.
I did. Thank you very much, and good to be back.
Wonderful stuff. Patty, before I get to my very quick topic, I heard your preamble that Miss Abby Newhook was going to be throwing out the first pitch at Fenway Park. I spent 25 years playing junior and senior ball here in town. I can't imagine the excitement she's feeling. That is very, very cool, and I know how highly you speak of both Alex and Abby, so and how proud you are of them. So I just wanted to send sincere congratulations for that. That's pretty cool.
It really is. Like, if you're not into baseball, then I get it. It's probably meaningless. But first pitch honors are reserved for some pretty important people, by and large, over the course of a Major League Baseball season. And to get to do it at Fenway as a young hockey player, I think is brilliant. Good for her.
Yeah, I do too. Patty, very quickly, my friend, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of visitors coming to our city, our beautiful city, for the Canada Games. Starting on Friday. And I did send an email a little while back to members of council and also to a little message on Facebook. I don't have many followers on the Facebook thing, but I wanted to put it out there to just give a thought and consideration to leaving your signs in until the Canada Games have concluded before the end of this month. It still leaves, Patty, well over a month for politicians and candidates to have their signs all throughout the city. And with the athletes and their parents and guardians and teammates, I mean, they're going to be taking videos and pictures all over this region and sending it across the country to their family members and maybe across the world. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to showcase the brilliance and beauty that is the capital city of St. John's. And I'd love to be able to have people come here, enjoy our city, and not have to climb over signs and put a sign out of a picture and in a picture and all that kind of stuff. Let them enjoy our beautiful city. Park the plastic until the end of the games, and it still gives over a month for people to have their signs out. It was just a thought on my part. I don't know if people agree or disagree, but I think it'd go a long way for people to enjoy what is one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
It can be. I think that's an excellent idea to keep the campaign signs out of the line of sight for the entirety of the games. But even just the state of the city. Look, I love St. John's. There's a reason I moved back here. I had a good thing going, a good life going in Alberta. But here we are. And every single time someone talks about, how beautiful the place is, the first thing that pops in my head every single time is picking up my buddies at the airport. We weren't all the way down to the Holiday Inn before someone said, man, it's pretty dirty around here. I'm like, oh, God. So let's hope that's not one of the takeaways.
And I'm not being negative or anything, but, picking up litter and being a good community citizen is more than just a month or two before an election. People who get elected, sometimes, perhaps it's not a sexy topic to be doing. I will never, ever apologize for, spending 30 years picking up other people's trash. Our circle of friends, we love our city, and there's nothing wrong with going up and picking someone else's litter. But yeah, I would hope that our new council now coming up maybe focus a bit more on litter control. And a good way to show that you are putting your city before yourself, even before the votes are counted on October, is to leave the signs in until the end of the games, and that'll make our city look absolutely beautiful without them.
Last one on litter, before I let you go, is even the provincial government is talking about some sort of structured community service if you don't pay your outstanding fines. I just saw a headline maybe this morning about $12,000. Someone has an outstanding fine. If you can't or won't pay it, we'll put you to work, whether it be cleaning up the graffiti or picking up the litter or whatever. It's a better idea than just letting millions of dollars of unpaid fines just sit there.
Patty, that's 20 years ago. I first brought that up, and with my explanation to the folks in charge was that this is not like picking up litter is not punishment. It's an opportunity to be with like-minded individuals and do something good for your city. The individuals who owe us the money or may have gone south of the law, they may have never been around a circle of friends of people who just do it because they love where they live and they want nothing in return, and they might be like, wow, this is pretty cool. I've never really understood that you give and not wanting anything in return. I think that's a wonderful idea, and I think that is a learned behavior. You see so many people throwing trash down, young people trash down, it's because they learned it from someone, either their family or someone older than them. So at the same time that being a litter bug is a learned behavior, also being a litter bug hero is also learned behavior. You teach people to pick it up, and it'll be natural just to not throw it down.
Hopefully so. Appreciate the time, Walter. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Have a great day, sir.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Dave, am I taking another one here? Am I going to start off on the right foot and get to breaks on time? Okay, listener sends across an interesting comment on Walter sought to leave down election signs until the games have come and gone. And this person is not wrong insofar as name recognition is a pretty key component to being successful as a candidate. Now, we know the incumbents already have a pretty significant leg up regarding name recognition. Now, being an incumbent can be quite harmful if you have been a useless politician, regardless of what level of government we're talking about. But so that's a fair point. That, look, there's a science behind election campaign signs. Whether you look at size, location, color, font, there's actually research that's been done, which is unbelievable to say out loud, about how signs work. And, matching up signs, location and color and font and all the rest to success, there's something to it. So name recognition is a fair point. I totally get that. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're walking across the country. Well, at least we're talking about it. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Good morning, Laurie Haggerty. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here in Chapel Arm, actually, is where I'm calling you from, but I've officially made it on the highway to the 100-kilometer mark, so I'm 100 kilometers outside the city and should be reaching St. John's and walking through St. John's on August 8th.
So you've made it from Victoria, BC to Chapel Arm?
No, from Vancouver. I started in downtown Vancouver on April 2nd of 2024. I did have to take a hiatus, however. In December, when I was walking through Montmagny, Quebec, I got a call I was dreading. My brother called to say there'd been a change in my mom's health, and so I had told him before I left that if anything should happen and I was needed at home, that I would stop the walk and head home, and I did just that. On December 4th, I got to spend one last lovely week with my mom before her passing. I did take the remainder of December off. When I made that call to leave the road in December, I knew that meant I had to change my plan. I had wanted to walk from Vancouver to St. John's without any stops. But as fate would have it, there was a few injuries along the way and some slowdowns. But when I left the road in December, I knew that meant I could no longer continue and finish everything all at once, because my husband has been my support team since just before crossing the BC border. Before that, my son and his partner Allison and my grandson traveled with me throughout BC, get me safely on and off the road at the end of the day. My husband then took over and has been with me ever since. So he's actually crossed every border with me. And we didn't want to do Newfoundland without each other because we've never been here. It's our first visit, actually. I took Terry Fox's advice, and that's why I started in Vancouver, actually. When I planned this whole thing, it was following a motor vehicle accident that left me with short-term memory loss. At the time of the accident, I was applying to go back to university. I just graduated, a COVID grad of 2020. I was applying to go back into the social work program. I was writing to our police commissioner's office about the homicide investigation into my sister's 2008 death. But the accident caused such severe short-term memory loss, herniation of my spine in 3 areas. I had trouble speaking sometimes, a lot of different problems. I have a problem with my vision still, which causes vertigo and balance issues from time to time, but walking is very therapeutic for all that. So it was at that time following the accident that I came up with the idea that I wanted to walk across Canada. I could hardly walk a city block at the time, but I think I felt like my life had kind of been taken from me. Definitely my mental health had taken another hit, and I needed something to work towards. So when my occupational therapist suggested that I resume some of my normal hobbies, one of the things that was most important for me to be able to take back was reading. Reading became very difficult with the migraines and vision issues. Still is difficult to do. I can do it, but it takes me a lot longer now. So when she told me to resume activities, one of the first things I wanted to do was read. So I took out, I didn't know who else to turn to for advice, so I took out Terry Fox's biography and reread that. I hadn't read it since I was a kid. And he told me 2 really key pieces of advice. One is if you walk west-east, the wind's more often at your back. And when you're doing a walk this long, that's definitely important. The second thing that he told me was the reason why he started here. And I don't know if you know why Terry Fox chose to start in Newfoundland, but his reason was that he wanted to feel like he was walking home. And so for an East Coast girl like me from Fredericton, New Brunswick, I thought that sounds really, really good. So I decided to start out west. The third was a more personal reason. After the accident, so much had been taken from me. I just wanted to feel capable again. And I thought, you know what, if I can get through those mountains, I can get through anything Canada has to offer. So we started in Vancouver, and I finished in Halifax in March of this year. Then, because I was supposed to finish before March all along, my eldest daughter actually planned her second pregnancy around the walk. So when I left the road, my husband was back at work, his busy season as a financial planner. We took, I helped to plan my mom's celebration of life. We had that in May. Then I flew out to Alberta following that for the birth of my 3rd grandchild, and then stayed there for a month to help my daughter with her 2 little ones. Flew home at the end of June to celebrate my grandson's 3rd birthday. And it gave me approximately 3 weeks to get ready for Newfoundland, and I started here on July 4th and hope to finish on August 8th.
First off, most importantly, I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your mother, so my condolences to you and your family.
Thank you.
Secondly, welcome to Newfoundland. We're glad to have you.
Thank you so much.
And good on you for taking this on. And just so we know exactly what we're talking about here, why are you walking? To raise awareness for what in particular?
For intimate partner violence and domestic violence. I'm hoping to raise money for 2 charities that I see as essential for ending domestic violence, and that is Canadian Mental Health Association and Women's Shelters Canada. I see the shelter system as necessary for people to have a support system in place when they're ready to leave. But I also see Canadian mental health as essential to end it, because for me, my Just Walk Away message, I like to tell people that message is not actually for people who are being abused. I don't believe it's that simple. In fact, my brother came up with that title and I was a little appalled by it because I said right away, I'm like, you can't just walk away, Corey. It's not that simple. And it's not. In fact, I think it's easier for me as a non-athletic grandmother to have walked across this country, mainly on the Trans-Canada Highway. I think it was easier for me to have done this than it is for a lot of people to safely escape their abusers. And, I think that, so for me, the message that I want them to receive is I want them to see what I'm doing, and I want them to find their own courage and determination to do what they think is impossible. Because I thought this was impossible for sure. If you had told me that I was going to attempt to walk across Canada at any point in time up until the day I went to my husband and said, I have this crazy idea, I would have thought you're completely mad. It's not something that was ever on my radar, ever. But I want to inspire people to tell their stories. I think that's by sharing, by other victims sharing their stories, it gives hope to those still living in those situations. I also think by telling our stories, it helps to end it. When we bring things out into the light, it helps to end things. My message of just walk away, that's actually for the abuser, and that's why mental health care is so important to me, because I think if we don't treat and help both sides of the equation, that abuse just continues into next relationships.
Sure. And we can't be afraid to talk to our children about this either, because, that's where we plant the seeds of respect and self-respect, what's acceptable, what is not, what is the norm in a healthy relationship, what is not. So I know some of these traumatic conversations, we all struggle as parents as to when to entertain them with our children, but before long, they see the evils of the world in the palm of their hand. We can't be afraid to be honest and have these conversations with each other as adults and with our children. So I'll get that one out there. And the Just Walk Away, I'm so glad that you said that's aimed at the abuser, because when people say, well, if you're on the receiving end of intimate partner violence, then just leave. It's just true. It's oversimplifying a very complex issue. It could be about the children. It could be about the pets. It could be about finances. It could be about the shame. It could be about anything. So, and walking across Canada is not on my radar, but intimate partner violence is. We have a call every single month from a lady called from Miles for Smiles. Connie Pike is her name. She works with Bev Moore Davis to talk about just how many cases of domestic violence are on the court docket, and the numbers are shocking, and they're not getting better. So I think what you're doing is critically important. I wish we had a bit more time to delve a little further into it, but if people want to follow along with your journey across from Vancouver to St. John's, is there a website or a place where we can track and contribute, or whatever the case may be?
Absolutely. The website is called justwalkawaycanada.com. I also try to post daily on Facebook and on TikTok under Just Walk Away Canada as well. And I'm encouraging people to donate to either the two charities. I'm asking Canadians just to donate $1. I think if every Canadian donated $1 to each of those charities, we'd make some real change. There's a real crisis right now in our shelter system. Yep. Because we don't have affordable second stage housing for people to move into. They're getting stuck in the shelter system, and that ties up beds for people that are trying to leave the situation that they're in. Like, I've talked to women across the country, some of whom have been in the shelters for well over a year. One woman had been there for nearly 2 years, still hoping to find housing for her and her two children. And living in a shelter system, we need those shelters, but it's less than ideal to make that a long-term thing. So
yeah, there should be for emergencies. We need transitional housing on a variety of fronts, including this one. I'm unfortunately late for my newscast, but Laurie, it's nice to meet you this morning. Congratulations on what you're doing. Welcome to the province, and safe travels on your route to St. John's.
Well, and if anyone out there wants to come join me on the 8th, I should be walking through the city then. And, come out and show your support, or come out and walk with me. I'd love to meet some more people. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Laurie. Be careful. All right, there we go. Laurie Haggerty walking across the country, raising awareness for the shelter system, mental health, and, of course, domestic partner violence. A tricky conversation, but all the tricky ones are the ones that are most important to have. Let's get to the break. When we get back, Rolanda and Tom and Dana and Liam, you stay right there, and then we'll speak with you. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 6. Good morning, Liam. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Excellent today. Thanks. How about you?
Oh, good. Headed to rehearsal there now, rehearsing for an opera. But I wanted to talk about what's going on in the province and in the country about what's going on with the drug problem and addictions. Like, it's mental. And, like, I understand that, like, there's more housing being developed. Yeah, there's more money being put into the police or whatnot. But that just seems like Band-Aids to me. Like it's not the drugs problem, or it's not the alcohol's problem. It's just like singing. It's not the note's fault. It's the singer's fault for not setting up the right to prepare to sing for the right note. You got to start from the beginning. Nobody put a gun to anybody's head, and especially somebody like myself who's dealing with addiction. Nobody puts a gun to your head and says, drink this, smoke a bit of weed, smoke a bowl of crack, or whatnot. It starts at the beginning. Like, is the province doing anything, regards to mental health education, like early on, drug education, early on? Like, what are they doing for that front? Because if you just keep on, Band-Aid, then what's the point? What are you fixing?
Well, I mean, like everything else in this world, complicated matters require complicated solutions. So, yes, you start at the beginning with the DARE program in schools, which can be helpful. Also, people can fall prey to an addiction very quickly. I mean, that's what kind of gets overlooked here sometimes. It's not a socioeconomic thing. It's not all just people who are making bad decisions, who are struggling, or they're poor, or they're what have you. It can happen from a doctor's prescription pad. It can happen at a party. It can happen in the street, in the corner, in the shadows, in the laneways. So I don't think there's we could just say no, because, let's just look at history. Just say no, which was, of course, the Nancy Reagan bit done in the United States. It didn't make any difference at all. Period. So just, same thing we talk about sexual abstinence before you're married. Things like that don't work. They're aspirational and they sound like the be-all and end-all, but they've never worked. So personal responsibility. Well, I know look, I've lost a buddy who's not dead, but he's just walking around a bag of bones, and he was smart and had a family and educated, a good job, and the next thing you know, gone. And not a guy that was a bad decision maker overall, based on my knowledge of him and his behavior over the years. So I think just say no is hopeful, but really probably doesn't make much of a difference.
Well, I think you got to look at other places rather than just in North America as well. Like, my partner's from Brazil, and they have her generation, they have a huge anti-drug program and anti-drinking and driving. Like, the reduction that you see in Brazil for drinking and driving and drugs related accidents are way down. Like Brazilians of 26 to this age, they're not really drinkers because they're taught how bad it is. So I mean, I think you really do have to start at the beginning. And I understand. Like, I was where your buddy was at. Like, I was going to groups and stuff like that. And I'm an actor. I come from a good family. I would never do anything terrible. Yes, it can happen to anybody, but still, there got to be something more there, because I don't feel like I got it. I just feel like with the DARE program, yeah, it was in grade 6, done, slapped over that, and call it a day. There was nothing else. There was nothing else.
We can do everything to preach. Avoiding falling prey to any addiction, whether it be cigarettes or drugs or alcohol or gambling or a food disorder, whatever the case may be, obviously. And to not incorporate that would be a terrible mistake. But it's everything included, all the way from if indeed you fall prey to an addiction, then what? So, yes, education, but then the then what question hasn't been satisfied quite yet either.
Well, it is a whole thing, but you got to come at it different angles. There's different departments for different things. So if you can all work together to a common thing and have multiple things happening at the one time, then it should be. It just takes a bit of organization. It's not hard to project manage something and to slowly be able to implement things. It's not an overnight fix. It's not one and done. This is a generational thing that has to be done. But that's it. I won't take up any more of your time today. And thank you for always having me on. And I look forward to hearing more of the show.
I appreciate your time, Liam. Thank you.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, addictions are ugly, right? Especially when they spiral out of control. I use that word spiral because that's exactly what it is. The first dabble someone might have with whatever the aforementioned potential addictions in this world. Some of it can be quite, I'll call it innocuous or innocent, or maybe made under duress, or maybe made through no fault of your own, recovering from some serious incident or accident in surgery, and next thing you know, are good people that were making good decisions with their life. Now all of a sudden, they can't find a good decision if it was right there in front of them and you placed your hand on it. All right, let's see here. Let's take a break. When we come back, Orlando's going to kick off the next segment, talk about a proposal here in the city of St. John's. We'll find out exactly what she thinks it deserves more consideration, for instance, like a town hall. And then we'll get reaction to her concerns from Ward 4 Councillor Tom Davis. He's also got some issues he wants to talk about, and then we're speaking with you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Rolanda, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. It's nice to speak with you again.
Happy to have you on.
Thank you. Patty, the reason I'm calling today is about a letter that myself and my partner George received in the mail. Basically, it's a proposal for 222 La Marchand Road, which was formerly Extended Stay and is now Eastern Health Accommodations. Are you familiar with that? It's next to Christine's Pub and just steps away from St. Clair's Hospital. Are you familiar with that property?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so the letter says that basically there's a proposal there to develop that into 99 new dwelling units with units on all floors. And then the letter goes on to say the city is also advertising discretionary use of dwelling unit first story for approximately 22 dwelling units for that story. So I'm not quite sure if it's going to be 222 dwelling units or if it's going to be 99 dwelling units is what I meant to say. It's not sure if it's going to be 99 dwelling units or 121 dwelling units because it's not really clear. But my point in kind of calling about this is that, so last year, well, it was late 2024-ish, I got a letter in my mailbox, and everybody in the neighborhood got a letter in their mailbox, and it was from a concerned citizen in the area. There was a development happening on Alexander Street. Nobody in our neighborhood was invited to that meeting. There was going to be a meeting at the Foran Room about a development on Alexander Street. Somebody in the neighborhood went through great lengths to determine how many shelter beds had been built in the area over a period from 2020 to 2024, how many shelter beds for people who are housing insecure, etc. There was 235 shelter beds within less than a 2-kilometer square radius that were built between the years 2020 and 2024. Now, if you spoke with anybody in this area, you would quickly learn that crime has increased significantly over the last, well, especially more so in a more rapid pace since the pandemic. I know our home has been broken into twice. Once was on a Christmas morning at 3:40 a.m. Our car has been broken into 3 times. We've had over $5,000 done in damage to our car. We regularly pick up needles and syringes around our homes. I've spoke to lots of neighbors who are really concerned about the situation in the area. So now I get this proposal, and when I went to that meeting, I did, which was about Alexander Street, I did stand up because we weren't given a letter about that proposal. So I posed the question on the floor about how come some people got these letters and other people did not get these letters, such as us. Ron Ellsworth was attending the meeting, and he stood up to respond to my query, and he said, "You are in a mixed residential zone. We do not have to notify you of any developments in your area." So anybody near my house or anywhere close to me didn't get these letters, so didn't have the opportunity to attend. So realizing that, I now have this letter that came in the mail It's not dated. I don't remember when I got it. I was out of town, and then I came home and it was there. So I don't know if it was like 3 days ago, 5 days ago, 7 days ago. I'm not sure when this came. But in any event, I now have this letter. So I actually want to know what these dwelling units are, because it doesn't give you any information. Is this for people who are housing or unhoused or housing insecure? Are these other shelter beds? I mean, you're changing what was basically at one point a hotel, and which is now like still the same rooms. You're changing it from the current 92 to either 99 or 121. So it's not going to be big rooms. It doesn't actually sound to me like these are going to be housing units. It sounds to me like these are going to be converted rooms, because there's no indication on this letter that they're going to be building anything. They're going to, quote unquote, convert the existing building into fully residential building. So I'm suspecting these are going to be very small units, and I'm wondering what people or families are going to live in it, because there's nothing explained. So last night, myself and my partner took it up on ourselves. I did up a letter requesting a meeting. I did send emails to the councillors and to the city, and then I thought, we need a meeting so we can ask questions and get more information. Otherwise, this is going to go through with no feedback from anybody in the area. So myself and my partner did up a little request form for people to sign if they would like a meeting. We started at the top of Patrick Street, and we managed to get down to where it intersects with Pleasant Street. We were out for a couple of hours, but we didn't get any further than that, and we got signatures of all but one person we spoke to. We got their signature. The person who didn't sign was in the middle of an emergency and couldn't sign. We knocked on her door, and she was in a crisis, so obviously we let her be and didn't take her time up. Everybody was interested in this, and with the exception of that woman, nobody else had heard about, well, she hadn't heard about, but only one other person in this entire neighborhood that we spoke to from the top of Patrick to the intersection of Pleasant, only one other person had gotten this letter in the mail besides us. So the city is not getting feedback from the people who are like minutes away from this, from this building. We literally are like less than 5 minutes walk from the building, but the people in the area aren't getting these notifications because, quote unquote, we're in mixed residential, so they don't have to tell us. So I think in keeping with what the person just prior to me was talking about was the mental health and addictions going on, the city seems to be really top-heavy. I'm not sure how many shelter beds existed before that meeting in 2024, but 235 in a 4-year period being developed is significant. We walk out our doors. There's drug paraphernalia. We walk out our doors. We've seen people smoking crack pipes. We see people injecting in their veins in their arms, between their toes. We have garbage, needles, syringes. We have people constantly, we see people sleeping on doorsteps and on bus stops. And I'm not NIMBY, you know that. Like, I worked in the prison. I dealt with people with addictions. I own the clinic. I take care of and give good care to people who suffer from mental health and addictions. Nobody chose to be an addict. We're all one good car accident and beat up away from becoming that. If, we get in a car accident, you get addicted to the drugs they prescribe. I have no judgment. I have nothing but empathy and compassion for people suffering from addictions. But the city, I believe, owes its residents at least a meeting to tell us what they're going to put there. We all know we're in an area where there's a lot of shelter beds. We see it on a daily basis. But if they're going to put more shelter beds over there, and then they're going to develop the Grace Hospital into a mental health addictions, psychosis, psychiatric center, then our whole area of the city is going to have more than its fair share of people suffering from mental health and addictions. And I don't feel it's fair to us, but I also don't feel it's fair to the people who are actually suffering. Because when you're all put into the one area, the likelihood of having quick and easy access to the drugs, the likelihood of being influenced by those around you, the likelihood of trying to get clean while everybody around you is still suffering from addiction. I feel like the city needs to really take a look at the planning, because we pay taxes. We pay high taxes. We want to live in this area, but it's become so dangerous and such a scary place to live. And I don't think they're going to put, shelter beds in Ballyhaley Estates or down on Waterford Bridge Road or in King William Estates. It seems like they're putting them all in the same area of the city, but those of us who live here are suffering from too much vandalism, from crime, from harassment. I just feel as though the city, at least at the very, very, very minimum, they owe us to let us know what's being built in our area. I said to Ron Ellsworth the night of the prior meeting, I said, Ron, I bought my house in 2005. I paid $200,000 for it. I have almost that much invested again in trying to repair a 124-year-old house. I said, if I tried to sell my house tomorrow, I would be very, very lucky to get back the $200,000 I paid for it, because once people learn about this area of the city and what's happening in the area, and they look around and they walk the streets and see the drug paraphernalia and see cars being broken into, and every night all you have to do is watch out your window. People are going up and down the street checking every door handle on every car. And I just feel like the city should try and be a bit more fair in where they put all of these shelter beds and let people know. And like all of these people I spoke to last night, one person had a letter. Nobody else even had a voice. And I would have hundreds of signatures if I had time to walk around this entire area. But people wanted to talk about this. Every single door we knocked on, people took our time. They wanted to talk about their concerns. And the reason I'm reaching out to you, Patty, is because I don't want my letter to the city to get lost. I don't want it to be ignored. I want the public to know that we, as residents in Centre City, downtown core, we deserve the right to be told what's happening in our area of the city.
Sure.
Just because we're mixed residential does not take away our right to know what they're doing.
Well, the basics of not even knowing what is being proposed is important. And a bed is only a place to lay your head. The supports you need have to be part of the conversation. And what they include, I have no idea. But lucky for us, and I know it's not Tom Davis's actual ward, but as a member of council, he should be able to speak to your concerns, at least in a general form. So I get where you're coming from, Rolanda. And some of the arguments you'll hear about where some of these proposals take place and what parts of the city is we hear constantly that they're being proposed in areas closest to supports, community supports and otherwise. Same place why the argument was made for why the gathering place belongs there. The same reason why we see an influx of people moving to the city and specifically city centre, because that's where the supports are. That same argument was made about the Comfort Inn. Why way out there? Because all of a sudden the people who need supports have to get to them downtown or in the city centre. So I know where you're coming from, and maybe Councillor Davis can respond to it right after your call. How's that?
Perfect. Thank you, Patty. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate yours, Rolanda. Stay in touch.
Take care.
Okay, see you, Ro. Bye-bye. All right, let's take that break. Tom Davis is there to respond to Rolanda, and then whatever he wants to talk about, and then we're speaking with you. That includes Chris, who wants to talk fixed link. Fantastic. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 2. Say good morning to the Ward 4 councillor here in the city of St. John's. That's Tom Davis. Councillor, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Morning.
So,
hello?
using your platform.
Can
you hear me?
Not really. You're breaking in and out.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. So before we get into whatever you wanted to call about, can you respond to tax-paying citizen Rolanda Ryan about her concerns on Lamartin Road?
Well, first of all, it's good to hear residents getting involved in the process, going door to door, engaging with their neighbors, just to have their voice heard. So, the first thing is that the extended stay are being converted into apartments. We really don't control necessarily the tenants that go into an apartment. A developer comes to us and says, I want to do this. We don't have a say as to who goes into those spaces. So that's the first thing. And that is going to be apartments. And that's really what we are circulating the information around. As far as who has to be notified and who doesn't have to be notified, is within 150 meters of a development. I will say, though, that if people subscribe to our notification services, they'll find out all these notices when they go out as well. So that's another way, if you're concerned to have, issues in the neighborhood. Reaching out to all of us is really, an important process. I know that sometimes can be frustrating. Right now, we're just starting an election process, so it's very timely for residents to have concerns to bring it forward. As far as concentration of challenging tenants in an area, there is no debate that the downtown area, along all through there, there's definitely concentration. You've got the gathering place and different supportive places, and it's really, again, not something that the city dictates. And as well, when the province is involved, they can override us, like i.e. with the Grace Hospital. They basically, most people may or may not be aware of it, but that the municipality is the lowest rung in the government level. So the province can basically do what it wants to do, i.e. when they put the mental health facility on a floodplain, even though we were dead set against it. So there's the city, has an important role to play. However, we're just one piece in the puzzle. I don't know if that answers anything.
I think so, but she has some very specific questions, like even something as fundamental as how many units is a good place to start. So I'm not going to regurgitate everything Rolanda said, but even with some basic information that is left out of a update letter from the city, really does beg the question as to, where do they go for that next level of information? Is there going to be a town hall so they can collectively offer their questions or concerns to a body, whether it be committee members and or council members, whoever may indeed host a town hall? I guess that's the basics of what she was talking about.
Yeah, and usually when a developer develops something, they're the ones who notify, as a rule, and their contact information should be on there, and questions should go to the developer. If those answers are not forthcoming or you don't like the answers, then, and you could also at the same time contact council, because obviously we vote to approve things, and in the case of the zoning change, then the province actually has a rubber stamp too. So it's a fairly long process. So what I would recommend she do is continue doing what she's doing, forward all that information to us. Her ward councillor, who's Ophelia, Councillor Ravencroft, that would be someone to go through, and or the at-large councillors, and or the deputy mayor and the mayor. They are the voice for all the residents. If the ward councillor doesn't, respond to them in a timely manner, but again, they need to have their voices heard, because as she indicated, there was real challenges in their area, and I just can't imagine. My daughter lived in the area, and I was worried. I was relieved when she moved out of that area, to be perfectly honest. So it's not lost on us or me the real challenges that the residents of the downtown face every morning when they go out to their car or look out to their windows. So it's real. And you just can't brush it off. You just can't say, "Oh, it's not my jurisdiction. It's not whatever." It's all our problems. We talk about it. Talk about it constantly. We're acting on it constantly. But when you look around at the decline in society, it's we all have to be part of the solution. But obviously, us elected officials, we have a greater burden. So reach out to us. Reach out to me. Send us pictures, make it as real as you possibly can, because we need that motivation every day.
Fair enough. And I'm sure Rolanda's listening to you right now. So I know you called on a couple of different topics that I'll let you get to before we say goodbye, Tom.
Perfect. So the first thing is that a senior reached out to me, not in my ward, but adjacent, and she's in her 80s and an incredible woman who reaches out every once in a while, and she sits on her deck and she watches the traffic on her road, and she's a keen observer, and she's fairly close to a school, and she really has concerns with people racing up and down her road, and her observation was, it seems like it's the pickup trucks that are in a big hurry. So I just want to reach out to all pickup truck drivers now, and I know a lot of times that's contractors racing around trying to get around. Again, you're driving a massive piece of machine, and if you meet human flesh, it's a very bad day for the human flesh or the biker. So I just please, we can't say this enough. Please pay attention. Please put the phone down. Please keep your foot off the pedal for the sake of everybody.
Just a quick comment on that. Look, people can buy whatever they want with their own money. You can drive whatever you want. But I used to have a truck. Some of the new trucks out there are so tall in the front that as someone who owns one, maybe just consider that when you get behind the wheel. Again, it's your money. You can buy whatever you want. Whether or not you ever put anything in the box, there's nothing to do with me. But some of those vehicles, I don't know how you can see anything that isn't equally as high. Because, I sat in the passenger seat of one of my buddy's brand new trucks. I'll leave the make and model at it, but it's a huge vehicle, really tall in the front. If there was a kid on a bike and you didn't see them from 50 yards, you're not going to see them up close. They're just so massive that those sight lines are seriously compromised. So, especially if you're driving something big where the sight lines are not what they used to be when you were driving like a four-door sedan, be mindful of that. Because I was driving around in that vehicle thinking, holy smokes, man, I can't see anything. You know, regarding, say, for instance, how I can see out the windshield of my vehicle. It's just wild how big they are and how tall they are.
Yeah, and to remind people, there are speed cameras in this province right now issuing tickets. I know that there's going to be a wave of them, because I can only imagine, and there'll be more coming online as well. I know you were well, maybe you were aware of it, but yeah, the school buses, school arms in September. Please goodness, there's going to be 4 buses with cameras that'll be giving really terrible tickets, really, and well-deserved tickets in September, trying to protect our young ones. But just anyway, I want to also, applaud Walter for his call on signage. It's something we spoke about in council, and we had some difficult conversations. That being said, my ward is a lot of the Canada Game stuff, and I'm going to hold off. As an incumbent, it's probably a little. I might have a bit of an advantage, maybe, but he's reached me, and another one of the councillors also is a pretty strong advocate in favor of not putting the signs. I'm going to hold off and see if I can get through to the end of the. But that's just tweets around. This will be a personal decision, like one of your people who weighed in on you. I think you got to go. It's a personal decision. It's democracy. It's brand name recognition. But I've made that decision. And I'm going to just kind of take it week by week. Obviously, if the place fills up with signs, then maybe I'll change my mind. But right now, I just want to encourage people, if anything, keep it light and keep them tidy, and make sure they're well fastened. If you're going to put them in the ground or put them on something, make sure they're very well fastened so they're not blown down, so they're not a hazard.
Yeah, and now there's a difference in, let's see, not all campaign signs are created equal. There's a difference between someone putting the one on their front lawn in a residential neighbourhood versus at the intersection at Logie Bay Road and McDonald Drive. So there's different things, So, for instance, if my next door neighbour puts one up, it's highly unlikely a visitor for the Canada Summer Games or any tourist is going to see that and say, oh, I must send that back on my Instagram account. It's the big notable intersections and along the parkway and things like that. I think that's really a different conversation than a neighborhood-based sign on someone's front lawn.
Agreed. Yeah. Again, it's a personal choice. I mean, it's not the city's job. I think we may look at it after this, whether 2 months is too long for signage, because it is a long time, and the signs blow around and they're up in the waterways and all that stuff. But for now, to each their own. I'm going to make that decision for now. I'll just take it week by week and see where we go from that. I want to quickly throw in on the forest fires and the wildfires, and our heart goes out to the different communities around the province. I mean, it's really hard to wrap your head around being evacuated from your home. And there's a lot of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians now who have experienced it or have loved ones who've experienced it. It's really, really real. And, when I was around the bay, and I drove in last night and looking at the smoke over Paradise and Mount Pearl and Portugal, St. Phillips and CBS. I mean, it is really, really sobering to see that and to realize we only have so many resources, and the men and women who put their lives at risk trying to fight these fires. We need, and I have heard from a pretty good source that there is some questions about what went on out in Small Point, and I do think that, whether it's carelessness or deliberateness, humans are a big cause of these wildfires, and they're just. With our boreal forest in Newfoundland and Labrador, it's just like gasoline, especially when it's dry. We really, really, and I hear people firsthand, people close to me are like, why is there a fire ban on? I just want to be able to have a fire, roast a few marshmallows, wherever. Perhaps they're really responsible people, but the problem is that we just don't know when it can happen so quickly. And, just calling people, I was thinking how these water bombers in these helicopters in particular, they're all rented, and massive cost to have a helicopter working all day long. That's coming right out of taxpayers' pockets / borrowing off future generations. And I was kind of doing a little bit of math. They're mostly using salt water on these fires. So in 3 days, 3 water bombers will drop 3.24 million liters of salt water on our forests. potentially impacting, regrowth, because salt brine is not the best thing in the world, potentially getting into our waterways, potentially getting into people's surface wells, potentially getting into reservoirs. That's just 3 days. I mean, we just think about it. Water bombers have been dropping salt water on Newfoundland and Labrador all summer pretty well. So I just call on people to, really, really realize, A, that we need to prevent these forest fires, and B, we really have to have a moment to see the climate changing and really figure out what place we can play in this, whatever small part we can play in this process. But, it really needs to be, a wake-up call. I'd like to hear politicians talk about it, provincial politicians talking about this election, and not just paying lip service to it. And again, our hearts, our prayers go out to the people who are, living in real peril, as well as the smoke. Unfortunately, wildfire smoke is really harmful to people. It gets in your lungs, gets in your bloodstream. And so, we got to do what we can.
Fair enough. Appreciate the time. Thanks, Tom.
Take care, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye. Yeah, someone sent me an email this morning about the smoke and stuff, and it was addressed to me, but it was about something that apparently I said last week, but I wasn't here last week. And I don't even know what conversation this person was referring to, but it's about chronic illness and youth and what air quality may mean. Because as far as I know, the number one or the leading chronic illness suffered by youth is asthma, isn't it? I think it is. So someone wrote me a note saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. Jeez, I probably don't know what I'm talking about, but I knew what I was talking about last week when I was talking about baseball. So I'm really not exactly sure what that email is about. But yes, air quality is a concern. And some cities in the country are amongst the world's worst for air quality these days, which is a mouthful. And we do know what the wildfires mean for air quality close by, where the fires are burning. So if I'm wrong on the number one chronic illness for the country's youth is asthma, I'm pretty sure it is. Last time I had a look, it was exactly that. Let's take a break. When we come back, Chris is there to talk about the fixed link. And then we're speaking with you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 4. Good morning, Chris. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Paddy. How are you today?
Great today. Thanks. How about you?
Good. Last week I was the one that kicked off about the fixed link from Yankee Point to Port. Anyway, I don't know which one is which here. It's from Yankee Point to Point Armour, Labrador.
Point Amour, yeah.
And basically, like, what I'm saying, like, a solution to a lot of the challenges that's in Newfoundland goes back to putting a subsea tunnel from Yankee Point across the Point Armour. I mean, like, I'm just going to say this. When I get up in the morning, like, I like to have a nice glass of cool orange juice. The other day, I went to one of the grocery stores, and I think it's $13.54 for a jug of juice to have in the morning. I mean, like, I think what I'm trying to get at is, how do we explain the options and sell the benefits? Because I know that it's going to take a village. It's going to take all Newfoundlanders to put the energy in this to make it happen.
All right.
And okay.
Quick thought on the price. So what I'm trying to say is, get the energy behind Newfoundlanders to get the message to Mark Carney about the nation's huge projects. We're being included into those 5 areas. The Liberal government has already declared a fixed link as a nation-building project. Don't take it from me, take it from then Prime Minister Trudeau. In his mandate letter to then Infrastructure Minister Catherine McKenna, then passed off to Dominic LeBlanc, it was reiterated in their mandate letter several times. So that's one thing. And so they now can't say it's not a nation-building project because they've already said it is. So I'll put that out there. The price of orange juice, my thoughts on that would be the same questions I have about Marine Atlantic. If they had to cut the commercial fares in half, would that actually see a reduction in price in the grocery store, I'll be surprised. Because once the prices are set and customers and consumers get used to it and their sales are not falling off, retailers are going to be pretty hesitant to cut prices, even if it's cheaper to get the product here, whether it be an avocado or some orange juice or a head of lettuce. So I think that's a big question that really doesn't have a very clear answer. What do you think of that?
100%. 100%. Once you get the price up on something and people get used to it, that's it. They got the damage done.
Sure feels like it.
Done, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Marine Atlantic. Okay. I don't want to see everybody in Port aux Basques lose their jobs. But, I mean, it's time to move on now. It's 100 or 150 years or whatever, trying to do something with Marine Atlantic in order to make the picture bigger in Newfoundland and Labrador. I mean, just look at how she's gone sideways over there now with people trying to get to the province of Newfoundland for the summer games. Like, do you think that will ever change is the question.
No matter if there's a fixed link.
Go ahead.
No matter if there's a tunnel built, there's always going to be Marine Atlantic. It's constitutionally guaranteed. So no one's losing their job at Port aux Basques or North Sydney based on Marine Atlantic services. There's, regardless of whether or not people think it's a good idea, the next steps, because it's already in the hands of Canada's infrastructure bank, the next step is to go to the market, whether it be in a RFP, to see if the tunnel building crowd in the world are interested in doing it, can bring forward some new updated costs. Then we can translate that thing to things like the toll, to apply the same logic it is to travel across the Confederation Bridge, because this is very likely going to be in the world of a P3, right? If it ever happens, it's going to be some sort of public-private partnership, which I think is inevitable. I mean, if we're building hospitals and prisons and long-term care facilities in P3s, full well if this ever happens, it's going to be that as well. The updated numbers are not encouraging. There was a 2004 study done, and then Hatch came in 2018 and did another study. Arup came in last year, or 2023, and did another study into the cost and some of the forecasted traffic flow. Right now, it's at least doubled what it was when Hatch did the report in 18. Then the forecast of how busy it would be has been far decreased based on Arup's work. I don't know if either one is right or wrong, but that's just the most recent numbers that we had to consider. Then here's one that never gets part of this conversation. For starters, Quebec is going to have to finish, Route 135 to even get to Labrador. And secondly, let's just say Hatch were right, and the volume of traffic would be exorbitant. It would be huge. Imagine the work that's got to be done on the highway in the Great Northern Peninsula. I mean, if the most optimistic out there, I'll include you, Danny Doomeresk, say, for instance, and others, I mean, we've got to factor that in, because we'd be talking hundreds of millions of dollars just to prepare the highway and the GNP to prepare for that type of traffic, wouldn't we?
But, Paddy, the thing is that it's going to happen. Whoever came out with the studies or whatever, and the amount of money that's involved to getting it built, it's going to happen. I mean, Newfoundland is becoming the oil capital of Canada. And what the influx of people that's coming in, there's no turning back. There's no turning back. People are conditioned. This conditioning has to be demolished, and it's happening because it's going to happen. And there's no turning back because the floodgate is open. And that's I got a friend that owns a tractor trailer, and he stops bringing stuff. Like he picks up whatever he's in Coburg, and he picks up stuff for people and brings it in Newfoundland. December the 15th or the December the 20th, he stops. He stops. We're conditioned. But you put the fixed link in, and then you can get stuff back and forth all the time. Food insecurity. Like nobody here can come out and say that they can go to they're leaving to go to New Brunswick tomorrow, and they're going to get there. You can't say it. because of the weak link in the chain. It's going to happen. So it's just as well to get on board with it now. It's the new way.
It would take somewhere between 10 and 14 years to build. And I'm not going to hang my hat in full on either Hatch or Arup's work on this front, because I think the only logical next step, whether we talk about being conditioned or whatever the case may be, is we need to see what the tunnel bridge builder world looks like. Let's go out. And if there are Norwegian companies who've done a lot of these tunnels in the recent past, over the last couple of decades, whether it be a Canadian company or an American company or whoever, let's let them come forward, because they're only going to do an analysis based on whether or not they can make any money at it. And so let's put those numbers on the table, because unless we do that, then we're all just opining. We're guessing that it might be good or it might be bad, or Arup is right or Hatch is right, when in fact we need the tunnel building world to tell us the numbers. But that's really what we need here. So let's just say if someone comes forward and says it's going to cost $6.5 billion, it's going to take us 13 years to build, here's the likelihood of give us a variance of cost overruns of 10%, translate that into 35 years worth of tolls. How much? Because until we know that, I mean, for instance, if the toll to drive or to take, whether it be on the rail or otherwise, in that tunnel, if it's the same as Marine Atlantic or close by, and it takes longer to get to there, then people aren't going to use it. So unless we have the numbers, we're all just hoping that it's a good idea, or maybe it's a good idea, or possibly it's a nation-building project. But now that you mention that, the Premier, when talking about these things, has talked about Beta Nord, has talked about Marine Atlantic. Has that been part of the conversation? The fixed link as a nation-building project. The Liberals themselves have deemed it to be exactly that, in successive mandate letters to successive cabinet ministers and for the Canadian Infrastructure Bank. So it's an excellent question and conversation. I like talking fixed link, to be honest.
It's at the end of the day, it's how it affects, how it puts money in your pocket, like how it affects. What are the benefits of a subsea tunnel going to be to a business, whether it's in Port aux Basques or Arnold's Cove or St. John's? Until you can see the benefits, that's when the deal will be sold, whether we can do it, I mean, we just, like I said, just put a concrete island 200 miles off on the Grand Banks.
Right.
We have the skill and to do the work. But I do believe that. All right. We don't have the experience like what Norway has.
We do not.
Like you said, there's no.
No, I do have to get...
Be,
Chris, I hate to interrupt because I'm late for the news, but I appreciate the time. You're welcome back to discuss the fixed link at your convenience.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Have a nice day.
You too, sir. Bye-bye. Okay. Tom Davis would talk about salt water from the water bombers. I was thinking to myself, is that really true? Because I've seen water bombers pick up water from freshwater lakes many, many times. So, and then someone just wrote me a letter and said, no, the bombers are picking up water from freshwater lakes, which I always thought was the case. I didn't want to correct him, thinking that, well, maybe I'm wrong. But I've seen water bombers pick up water out of lakes. So that's a helpful clarification, and I'll absolutely get it from the crowd who are actually operating the bombers. Let's take a break. When we come back, Bernice, you're next. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the show. Well, I just stepped outside for a bit of fresh air, and man, can you ever smell the smoke right here on Kenmount Road. Hopefully they're making some headway with that fire, or the fires today, but boy, it's really thick out there this morning. Let's go to line number 3. Bernice, you're on the air.
Good morning, Terry. How are you?
That's kind. How about you?
Thank you. I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
I have a major problem. I'm living in assisted living, whatever you want to call it. And, excuse me, everyone here gets what you call comfort allowance in the middle of around 20 every month. I haven't received anything since January. Not a cent. I had to go to my family to help me with my toiletries. I never had to do that. And I always had $1. Now, They're not giving me any reason why I shouldn't be getting my money. All they say is we're waiting on word from the office, from the head office. And I haven't got a clue what they're talking about.
So no one's been able to give you a reason as to why no funds since January?
No funds since January. All they say is that there's only enough money coming in to cover your rent. And I said, listen, my money was coming in here to cover my rent, and I was still getting $3,000 or $4,000 a month. And my rent was covered. I'm what I'm getting now. So I don't know where to turn because it's so frustrating. You're not getting, they're just running you around. So I thought, I got to do something. I got to call and see what Patty got to say about this. If you got any listeners, hope you help me,
I know someone in the department. Now they're at a mid-level, but they might be able to shed some light on what the hold-up is. Every now and then when I hear someone's, missing the support payment for a couple of weeks or whatever, I get that government is not efficient. But since January, so how much money are we talking about that you had to go to your family for all these months?
My family pays for my toiletries, some clothes, my shampoo, body wash, things like that. And my sister, and she's been doing that now 4 or 5 months. If I never had her, I wouldn't know what I'd do.
Yeah.
I mean, a woman needs, toiletries, shampoo. Everyone needs that.
Sure.
But I have no money to buy it.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find out any information for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll zip a note off to the person who I do know who works inside the department responsible. If they give me any idea about what is actually going on here, Bernice, we've got your phone number. We'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. Keep me in the loop.
Thank you. I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, Dave, I don't know. Where am I going here? Line number 5? 5 it is. Let's go. Dana, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
We've got a poor connection on that one, so let's leave it there. Let's go to line number 2. Roger, you're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
I just want to say about the fix link there. Are you still there?
I'm listening.
Oh, the fix link. If I think if they built the tunnel, the rest of it will come.
What does that mean?
And it will cut down so much aggravation for Newfoundlanders or anybody to visit Newfoundland back and forth, and the truckers sitting on the wharf trying to get back. And if they turn around, they got to spend more money on ferries and everything, and all the pollution the ferries are making. I think it will cut down on a lot of different things, and it'll be a lot better for Newfoundlanders. No, I won't live long enough to see it go through, but I hope to God it puts one through and helps people out in Newfoundland and around the world to visit Newfoundland.
Yeah, like I said to Chris when we talked Fixed Link there a little while ago, we've got all sorts of conflicting numbers out there. And like I mentioned to Chris, we just really need someone who's in the business of building these things to tell us what it looks like. We can opine and we can guess. We're never going to have firm numbers about just how many vehicles, commercial or otherwise, would utilize the tunnel. People make the point that, well, look how many people travel the Confederation Bridge. The Confederation Bridge on the mainland is in close proximity to some 4 million people. That point of Pointe-à-Mort in Labrador, it's not the same case. So I don't know what the numbers would be, but even just to build it, I'd like someone in the tunnel building business to tell me what they actually think.
Yeah, you got a point there, but meanwhile, they're going to do it someday, and every day the cost is going to go up. Why don't we just start at it now and get it done, and I think everybody will benefit from it. That's what I think. Now, like I said, I won't be around to see it, but I hope they get it done someday. Yeah. But that's around about all I got to say. Time for somebody to wake up and say, okay, the ship's going across, the money for that. You won't need all that again. You still could have a ship there if you want to go that way, but I think you'll find that tunnel will be awful busy because I travel that way all the time and go across on the ferry going out. And you got a job to get across even on the ferry out there at times they're booked. But it is a good idea if they only done it, but not for me to think about. I suppose it's all right to think about, but nothing I could do about it. But just put my 2 cents there.
And I'm glad you shared them this morning, Roger. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome, sir. You have a good day, and God bless you and your family and everybody who's listening.
Thank you, and the same to you, Roger.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye. Yeah, I've mentioned Hatchinara a couple of times, and I suppose off the top of the show, somewhere tomorrow, we'll break it down in bite-sized morsels. Number one being nation building. And it's not me saying it, it's the federal government, and it made its way through Parliament pretty quick. There were some amendments at the Parliament, at the House of Commons level, regarding Bill C-5, the whole what's in the best interest of the country type project stuff. So we'll get that one out there. And the Liberals themselves have called the Fixed Link a nation-building project. Right? It was in successive mandate letters to various cabinet ministers all the way back to Catherine McKenna and then to Dominic LeBlanc. It's in the hands of the Canada Infrastructure Bank. So I wonder what kind of conversation, if any, took place between Premier Hogan and the Prime Minister when they last met at the Council of the Federation. We know they talked Bay to Nord, and we know they talked Marine Atlantic, but the whole Fixed Link thing, and we'll put the numbers out there. And it's not in an effort to sway opinion, because people will have their own built-in opinions on that and everything else under the sun. But then we'll see if we can't get an update from the 8th floor about whether or not this was even broached. Because if we're going to use the Liberal government's own words of nation-building project, they've already told us it is. I think the same thing pertains to things like the Upper Churchill and the possibility for a nation-building project like an East-West energy corridor, all part of this. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, plenty of show left for you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. And as per some emails, and I think these people are right, is water bombers would be proximity to the closest bit of water to try to put out the fires. Like, for instance, they made the point in Musgrave Harbour, the closest lake big enough for the water bomber to dip into was too far away, so they were using seawater. And I think the same thing, they were dipping water out of Holyrood Harbour or Harbour Grace just yesterday as well. So that makes sense to me. Close proximity is part of the calculation, obviously. Let's go to line number 4. Dana, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was wondering, Patty, there are places in St. John's, other places as well, where you can get used furniture. Like people, they get new furniture and they don't really want to get rid of what they had. But so there are people in the city who have, I think there are 3 or 4 locations where people bring their furniture. That they replaced it with newer and better things, and rightly so if you can afford it.
I can name a few off the top of my head. There's the Home Again Furniture Bank. There's Habitat for Humanity. They have a Restore. There's a place called Again and Again, which is very close by here, Kenmare Road. I think it's on Hebron. So those places are out there. Yep.
It's a wonderful service. I mean, people, hats off to those people who put all that in place, and thankfully there are people who get new furniture, right? And I'm telling you, some of the furniture is beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful furniture, right? But the thing about it was, what I was thinking about was pregnant women. Like I know 2 women who are basically street people, who are really good, decent people, right? And they were pregnant. And at the gathering place is all restricted seating. It's like going to the hospital. It's restricted seating. You're just sitting there and you're not, and there's no comfortable seating. It's all like going to a doctor's waiting room. It's all restricted seating, and there is absolutely nothing that's comfortable for a woman who's pregnant. So I think Paul Davis should reconsider his option of seating for people, because that's the gathering place. That's where we all go, and there's no comfortable seating. So I think Mr. Davis should consider the option of going to these places and getting these comfortable seating units for the people at the gathering place.
Known as chairs, yeah.
And I think that would be very conducive for Paul Davis in his efforts to make progress in his life. And, more power to him.
Fair enough. I don't know if the Furniture Bank would necessarily have a fleet of those uber comfortable chairs. Like, for instance, if we're trying to accommodate someone who's, for instance, a pregnant lady, as I think you've already mentioned.
I mean, Amy is the most recent one. Amy and Danny had a baby about 4 months ago. Danny and Amy are really good, decent people.
Yeah, I'm not sure who they may be, but they just had a baby, you said?
Yeah, Amy had a baby.
Congratulations.
Anna is really excited. But, you know, they're struggling to survive on the street, and I don't know where they're to now. I mean, people like us on the street, we see each other all the time, but we never plan to meet up. And sometimes we have really good times together, especially when the weather is good. Right, and the weather has been good. This has been a phenomenal summer for street people.
Yeah, it's been hot.
People are doing really well. And yeah, that was the first order of. I was also about the salmon fishery.
Okay.
Not only in Newfoundland but Canada. A possible option to. Fill all the salmon rivers in Canada, have them teeming with salmon. Is an idea that I came up with because of what someone else said one time. It sort of sparked it in my mind. It just came from nowhere. It was just something I heard, and it sparked in my mind. Then I thought about the problem. What about refrigeration? Like, what if we went down the boom siding down at the end of Deer Lake and installed a cold water stream of water with refrigeration? Because we could do it. We could form a pathway of cold water right up through the edge of the lake, or you could put it out in the middle of the lake, a couple, and cool the water. It would work. I think it would work because we have refrigeration, we have hydraulics, we have electricity. So we could possibly, revolutionize the salmon fishery in Canada, all the major salmon rivers. All we got to do is give them a cold stream, and they'll go right to their spawning grounds. It seems reasonable to me.
I'm not sure if it's actually manageable, and the trick is returns. That's where we get ourselves into a problem with the actual salmon return numbers.
Yeah.
I
mean, just think about it. We could go back to being able to take 6 fish a day, right? I mean, you think of the potential of it. I mean, it doesn't seem, there's nothing sticky about it or spiny. It seems smooth and streamlined like it would work.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually manageable given the flow of a river.
It's my patent idea, right? It's my patent idea, so I should benefit from that, shouldn't I, Patty? It's a patent idea.
Do you have
I just got to come up with the money among street people to buy the patent, and we're going to own it. So that's the way it's going to be.
Okay.
Okay. And then there's aqua fishery.
Aquaculture, okay.
Aquaculture.
Yeah.
You could do the same with refrigeration, potentially with aquaculture. You could cool the water around the area where the water is to. You could cool it.
You can't really, though.
Huh?
You can't actually do that.
Why?
Well, because of just the natural flow of any current. I mean, how could you actually cool water that's perpetually moving? Because you cool one drop of water and it's replaced by another drop of water before the other one got cool. So, I mean, the water is flowing through those pins. And so, I mean, my comment on aquaculture and the point of blame being sea lice and warm water temperatures. Look, those things aren't going to change. The water's not going to get cooler all of a sudden. So, which begs the question: the future of aquaculture in the bays. And it's not me using those words. That's exactly what representatives of the company have said: warmer water temperatures, and that's a problem.
It's almost like sometimes, like I say, where it came from, I'm not exactly sure, but someone said something to me one time, a long time ago, and I thought about it, and then it sort of sparked in my mind, and it just took over, and you set me on fire. It was like I was really, really excited about the idea. It was like, it seems like a streamline. It seems like it might work. I think it would.
It might.
I think I got a patent idea there.
Go for it.
Okay, then that's it. The gathering place, the salmon fishery, and aquaculture. Thank you, Patty.
No problem. Thanks, Dana.
I'll call you next week.
All right, buddy. All right, bye-bye. There we go. Let's see. We're almost up to the break. We are on the Twitter box. Some interesting stuff flowing in there. One comment was, if indeed you wanted to take Marine Atlantic, I don't think the Marine Atlantic conversation is over by a long shot, is if you wanted to take your vehicle to the mainland but you couldn't get a booking at your convenience on Marine Atlantic, the concept was, well, get it dropped by OceanX. Sounds like an awful lot to have to go through. And plus, you would then have to fly to Halifax, as opposed to just fly to Halifax in the first place, as opposed to rely on Marine Atlantic, because they don't drop ship anything in North Sydney, as far as I know. So then you'd either be fly to Halifax and or be a walk-on Marine Atlantic and then have to find your way from North Sydney to Halifax. So I don't think that's an ideal solution to what should be a better, more efficient for people from this province service via Marine Atlantic. Let's take a break. When we come back after the newscast, plenty of show left for you. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 4. Darius, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Patty. Listen, I was just listening to that with that link, you know?
Yep.
That's you know, I'm getting old, so I was just listening to your show, but I'm trying to keep it short. I was just thinking, like, you know, building tunnels and bridges across Newfoundland, there's a lot of complications. There's a lot of things that, you know, it sounds good, but there are an awful lot of things. All you got to do is look at the Bellolin mines. That might give you a hint. You know, the going under the ocean is not always a good idea. But and the ferries, you know, the bridge. Well, we say that's probably out too. But even though they got one between PEI and Nova Scotia, but I was thinking, and this is just a thought. Like the boats that they take, I call them boats that you know they got to bring back and forth. Why couldn't we build? I know it sounds ridiculous, but why not have nuclear powered ferries? It would, you know, I know the cost at first would be, you know, large, but no bigger than Muskrat Falls, and you know that would cut out the fuel costs. I mean, a nuclear-powered machine will last an awful long time. Look at the thing Voyager 1 and Voyager 2; they're still going. So.
Yeah.
You know,
Confederation Bridge lands in New Brunswick, but point taken, you can absolutely have a nuclear-powered ferry. I mean, we have nuclear-powered submarines. We have nuclear-powered all kinds of stuff. So it's a thing. It can be done. And, you know, building under the sea floor is absolutely can be done. I mean, obviously something has to be deep enough that you don't get the iceberg scrape and stuff, which is why you can't have a bridge over the water.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it can be done.
The thing with tunnels, you got to remember, too, if there's a fire in that tunnel, that's a long way.
Yeah, I mean, things like hazardous goods, there would have to be some well thought through plans, and, you know, you'd only have hazardous goods in the tunnel by themselves. It couldn't be alongside Tony Power's transport truck or my wife's car. Obviously, you're 100% right. Same way that we transport hazardous goods, whether it be fuel or otherwise, on the ferry services themselves.
Yeah, because I think they're over in Europe. They had a tunnel. I don't know, it was a car accident or something. There was a tunnel fire, and you know, a lot of people died because it was in a tunnel, and there was just you know, it was just no way to get out of it. You know, so I mean, if they're going to build something like that, which is, I agree, it's possible. You know, but I was just thinking this nuclear power thing, or even you know. I know, open up, set up some kind of air service, you know, just between Newfoundland and you know, wherever it is. Because I know like you said, you mentioned about Quebec, they have to finish that highway too, you know, and you know, I think we need to be connected definitely, but you know, which way is a good question. I was just thinking, you know, some of these wealthy, smart, intelligent people out there, and you know that the nuclear power thing seemed like a good idea, you know, and you know, I was going to say something about solar powered. I won't even get into that. I mean, you could probably build ships now that are EV ships.
You can.
We got EV vehicles. You can't have an EV airplane for obvious reasons. Well, you can have an EV ship.
You'll always have somewhere in the neighborhood of hybrid attempts to things like commercial marine traffic. Nothing's going to be like solely solar or what have you. It could be solely nuclear, no question. But if you're using some backup battery storage that's generated by solar panels or whatever, I'm sure that could be part of it. I'm not smart enough to know the answer to that question.
No, I mean, like, I'll give you a hint. My wife, she passed away a few years ago, but we used to go fishing. And, I bought a trolling. We went from gas power to a trolling motor, electric trolling motor. But then the problem was the battery used to die. So I bought solar panels, these foldable solar panels. But anyway, this was 20 years ago. Now, I'm sure they got solar panels now. You had a ship that was solar powered, for example. You could put the whole top of that ship. It doesn't have to have anybody on top there. You got the ship is a big damn thing. A ferry, I should say. These things that bring everybody across. The boat and a lot of our supplies. That's a big solar panel. The way I see it. And the only unfortunately, you're on the ocean, that's salt water, salt air, and we seen that salt storm years ago, so you can imagine what that's going to do with solar panels.
Yeah, not everywhere is ideal for any one specific type of energy. I think we can all understand that. The world is going to see a blend of energy, like it already has, and it will be extended more and more into renewables. Not because I say so, because that's the actual global trend. The prices come way back to earth. So there's always, for the foreseeable future, there's going to be a continued reliance on fossil fuels. The amount of solar and wind and nuclear being installed in the world is outpacing the actual appetite or the trend in the appetite, the annual uptick in appetite for fossil fuels. It's just what the numbers say. So what that means for this province, I'm not sure, but I'll give you the final word before I have to take another call.
Yeah. Well, no, that's it. One thing about the fossil fuels, without those, we won't have plastic, we won't have contact lenses, and we won't have, we'll be going back to glass syringes. And my father was diabetic. He used a glass syringe, a stainless steel needle. You don't want to go there. And but we don't need to use it for our cars and some other things.
Change is hard, but change is the only constant, and things are changing, and the world is changing, energy and otherwise. Darius, I appreciate your call this morning.
Yeah, well, thanks, Patty.
Anytime.
You're doing a fantastic job, by the way. I always listen to your show. You're a smart guy, for sure.
Sometimes not. Appreciate this, Darius. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, let's go to line number 5. Say good morning to the Ward 5 councillor here in the city of St. John's. That's Carl Ridgely. Carl, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you?
That's kind. You?
Good. The last comment that caller has made, I understand that fully, believe me. The municipal election's coming up on October 2nd, and I made an announcement a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just reiterating on your show that I will be seeking re-election for Ward 5. Briefly, about 6 or 7 months ago, I contemplated going at large, and I spoke to 3 or 4 people about it, and the rumours out there that I'm running at large, but I just want everybody to know that I am 100% running for the Ward 5 councillor to represent the residents of Ward 5 with the city again.
Fair enough, and I wish you good luck. On that front, one of the issues that your constituents are going to be speaking about is water. Whether that be in Kilbride and additional expenses, whether it be the dried up wells, is there any forward momentum on any of those files?
So, this particular file is taking up a lot of my time lately. Yes, we are talking about it. I'm in daily contact, and that's not an exaggeration. Daily contact with the residents that are affected in the Kilbride region, that because of the dig or potentially because of the dig. But right now with this drought and the weather that we're having, I got people on Ryan's Road, I got people down Pity Harbour Road, there's people all over my ward that don't have water right now. So it is an issue. I am trying to deal with it. The city's policy going back, I think it's 18 or 19 years ago, that the city stopped delivering water. But, times are changing and conditions are changing. So, I'm advocating for the residents, and, hopefully I can get some sort of resolution that will alleviate some of their concerns right now.
And I'm sure they'll be looking for them sooner than later. And, people keep telling me, well, it's just a dry summer. But the fact of the matter is we've had dry summers to the point where the city council here in St. John's have told me I can't water my lawn. I can't wash my car. And the wells didn't go dry then. So I think they've got an argument out there as to construction and the impact that it's had.
Oh, there's no doubt. You're preaching to the converted here. I hear you. I hear the residents, and I'm hoping and that there'll be some sort of resolution that everybody is satisfied with within the next, especially for those 11 residents in Kilbride, within the next 24 to 48 hours.
Appreciate the update this morning. Good luck on the hustings, Carl.
Yeah, but so I just want to say one more thing, Paddy, just to bring it to light. Like, Ward 5 is a very unique ward. You got Ward 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're condensed areas of the city, but Ward 5 is so large, and I'm dealing with 6 communities, separate communities. And when you look at Southlands or Brookfield Plains, they're like their own little communities because they got different issues than what the Googles got, or what got Brookfield, or say Shea Heights, Blackhead, or Southside Road. So it is a unique ward, and I've made myself available and will continue to do that. And I said it on your show before, and I'll say it again: if anybody calls my office number 576-2332 for any issues in the city, I'm available. It rings to my cell phone, and if I don't answer, I'm on another line, and I will get back in.
And I appreciate your time this morning, Carl. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks, Paddy.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Carl Ridgely, Ward 5 Councillor, running again. Let's take our final break of the morning. Don't go away. Welcome back to the programme. Let us go to line number 2. Zach, you're on the air.
How's it going, Paddy?
Not bad, I suppose. How about you?
Not too bad.
What's on your mind? What can we do for you?
Not too much, but I'm on a trip now with my wife and daughter. We're going around the island on a boat for the rest of the summer. I got a lend of a boat, actually. I was going to look at I don't even know where to start with all this, actually. First of all, let me back it up. About 2 years ago, I got diagnosed with cancer, and I went up to Toronto and Princess Margaret and had treatment, and basically they done all they could do for me up there after done a bunch of chemo and a bunch of radiation, but the tumor I had was still too big or whatever to take out, and it showed signs that it spread to other parts of my body, so they sent me home last April, basically, and said there was nothing else they could do for me, and to go get my affairs in order and enjoy my time, basically. So me and the wife now, girlfriend at the time, or common law or whatever, got married last summer, and this year we decided to do this trip around the island in boat, and we were planning it for a while, and I was looking at boats and this and that, and I was supposed to trade one of the smaller boats that I had for a bigger boat, and I went and looked at it a couple times, and I was joking around with the guy that had the boat, saying that he could buy it back off me in a year or two, or off the wife or whatever, whenever we're done with it, type deal. And when it came time to do the deal and actually trade my boat for his, he said, no, he said, I don't want to do the deal now. He said, I don't want to trade boats. He said, but you can come grab the boat and use her for as long as you like, and when you're done with it, I'll take her back.
I'm sorry to hear of your struggles and your health concerns. And so, just so I got this straight, whoever owns this boat has just said to you, you can take it and use it for as long as you like, no charge.
Yeah, basically, well, I took there was one condition. I had to, I was bringing the boat from Southern Harbour to Triton to do some work on it before we went out to sea the summer in it or whatever, and he said he wanted to do the trip to Triton with me, so that was perfect because I had nobody to go with me anyways.
Do you have a background on the water? Because it sounds fundamental to simply take a boat and cruise or steam around the island or sail around the island, but it's not as fundamental as it sounds.
No, a nice bit of background on the water, not from Grand Falls, Windsor. My grandfather was a fisherman most of his life, but I never fished with him or done anything like commercially.
Okay.
I always took part in like the food fishery and tour hunting and that type of thing. And of course, I grew up on the Exploits River and had boats and stuff my whole life, but I never had anything so big as the boat that I got off Kyle was actually a 65-foot boat. It was his old BFO patrol boat from the 65 is when it was built. So it's quite a bit different than what I had, but things are going good.
I'm glad to hear it. Now, it's easy enough, pardon me. It's great that you were able to get a loan of a boat, but you mentioned repairs, and you also got to put some fuel in it to get where you're going. So are you trying to crowdsource money for that, Zach? Because based on what you've told me about your health, you probably can't go back to work. So where are we?
Yeah, so last winter, I was a power line technician for 10 or 12 years or whatever, so I worked away mostly. I done the different parts of the Muskrat Falls project or whatever, the line or whatever, over to Stephenville, and I worked a lot away. But this past spring, I went up to, I managed to go away for a couple weeks for a storm last fall, a hurricane down in Florida. And in the winter, I went up to Ontario for a week maybe for an ice storm. But that was all the work I done for the year, basically. It was 3 weeks. So I got a GoFundMe account I started basically after I got the boat back to Triton and realized how much it was going to cost me to do, and it really sunk in, then I probably couldn't afford it. But yeah, everybody's helped me out so much since I got this on the go. Like even I had it over at the Mid-Island Fabrication in Triton, and he pretty much done everything for cost or less than cost. I'm pretty sure he didn't charge me very much. I had the boat on dry dock for 6 or 8 weeks, painting and fiberglassing it and doing all sorts of work to it. And yeah, he done whatever he could for me, that's for sure. That was Peter Windsor over there with the Mid-Island. Can't say enough good about them.
Yeah, good for them.
But everybody, honestly, that I've met along the way have been helping me out. And I had a GoFundMe page started when I started working on the boat, and that raised over $12,000 or something today. So that's been a big help, obviously, because 65-foot boat definitely burns a little bit of fuel, and it takes a little bit of money too for going everywhere and food and everything else.
Very quickly before I let you go, and you can give out the GoFundMe address before we say goodbye this morning. So, I don't even know how to ask this. It feels like the final trip with the family. So, who's on the boat with you?
Right now, it's just my wife and daughter and dog. But I had a friend with me for a week there, and I got some more friends coming next week. And I've been meeting up with different people along the way that's been coming with me and whatever. So,
well, I'm glad you're getting to do it.
I also got I've been putting lots of it on Facebook or whatever, but there's a platform called Sea People. I got to share it on my Facebook page, but it's got a live tracker basically on the boat, and it tracks where I go, the speed I'm at, and I document all the stuff and take pictures or whatever, and it shows where everything is. It was really cool.
Yeah, look, I'm really glad that you're getting the opportunity to share this journey with your wife and daughter and dog and your friends along the way. Do you want to give out your full name so that people can find you on Facebook and track along with your adventure this summer? Go ahead.
Zach Stroud, so ZACHSTROUD.
I wish you good luck and fair winds, Zach. Take good care of yourself.
Right on. Thanks a lot, Patty.
You're welcome, Zach. All the best. Bye-bye. I mean, part of me is happy they're getting to do that, and of course, certainly part of me is sad to know that it's maybe the last opportunity they get to share this kind of experience together. Oh, boy. All right. Good show today. Big thanks to all hands who support the program, all the callers, listeners, emailers, tweeters. You're all right. We will indeed pick up this conversation again tomorrow morning right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. Sarah Strickland, stop mocking me. We will indeed pick up this conversation again tomorrow morning right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. We'll talk in the morning. Bye-bye.